The purpose of this video is to create a quick and dirty reference to doing certain tasks in Microsoft Excel. It's not necessarily the approved way or the best way of doing it or the only way of doing it, but it's the way I use. So if I go to my start bar, I can type in Excel, or I may find it listed here. So if I type in Excel in the search bar there, it'll open it up. Now, before I go any further, I could right click on that and pin it to start, or pin it to the taskbar. If I pin it to the taskbar, it's going to sit at the bottom here. Right, that's where I want it. So now if I left click in, I can drag it across to where I want it, and so it may be more comfortable as I find various kinds of software programs for me at the bottom here, those that I use more regularly. So if I open Microsoft Excel there, I can click on blank workbook, and now I can start with my program. I can start with the documents that I would like to create, or I can open an existing document. Now the existing documents may be listed here, or I may browse for it on my computer. When I browse to the relevant place that I've created for my workbook or my document, I can just simply click on it and click on open, and it'll open up for me. Now you can see that we're going to address a number of issues here today, and so hopefully we'll get through the list fairly quickly. We've discussed how to open the file, and now I need to save the file. If you go to File, Save As on the left here, it is going to give me an option where to save that. If I browse my computer, I can search around for the correct folder. I've created a folder in this particular storage capacity here, and it's under Training. Double click, and I have created the book. I can change this to Training Document 1. Right, and then click Save, and it should be saved on my computer in that particular folder. Right, there it is, Training Document 1. In order to make life easier for myself, I would like to create some tools on the toolbar at the top here, quick access bar, that I will be using a lot of. So in my case, I use New, Open, Close, Save As, the one with a pencil, Undo, Redo, Cut, Copy, Paste, Paintbrush, and then coloring scheme for the cell, as well as spelling, print preview, print, and then basically print setup. The way to change whatever you want at the top here is by clicking on that arrow down there, and you can go to More Commands. If I click on More Commands, this opens up, and I can add from the left to the right the kinds of items that I want in my quick access bar at the top here. Right, so if I were to add, let's say, custom sort, and I add it by clicking that button Add, I can then raise that the priority of that particular function. I can raise that, and as soon as I click OK, it's going to sit on the quick action bar. If I want to remove it, same deal, click on the arrow, More Commands, click on the one that I want to remove, and click on Remove, and OK. Now I have tools sitting at the top here, and I know I will be using them a lot, and therefore I don't need to scroll around in any of these top menus. Though these help me with various other functionalities, probably I'm going to use these ones more than any others. Now, in terms of saving a document, we want to give a document a name that will be easily found. So if I save it, immediately as I save it, there will be a date and a time allocated to it. However, I might also want to do it my own way, and the way I like to do it is to add a date to it that gives me that kind of name at the top there, and I know the date that I've created it, right? Next, I want to see how we find help for anything. So at the very top there, we have the help function. If I click on help, and again help to the right here, various search options are created, or are offered. So if I say create a graph, for instance, just type that in, create a graph, and click on that. It's going to give me various options in terms of information that it will provide for me. Add a pie chart, for instance. If I click on that and I have to be online to use this functionality, it'll take me through various steps so as to create a pie chart. This may be relevant to any kind of functionality that I want to use, including formulas and so forth. Now, how do we use this spreadsheet? A spreadsheet essentially is made up of various tabs or sheets at the bottom. And you can see that we have sheet 1 here. If I want to create a new sheet, I can just click on that little plus there, and it will create a new sheet and a new sheet and a new sheet, and it will automatically name it. So I can then navigate from sheet 1 to sheet 2 to sheet 3. So you can see that if I type in sheet 2 here and hit enter, always hit enter in Excel, and I type, let's say, sheet 3 there and hit enter. If I go at the bottom from sheet 3 and I click on sheet 2, there's sheet 2 and there is sheet 1. That's the way I navigate between the different sheets. Now I may choose to click on this sheet 1, hold in my the left button on my mouse and drag it across to change the order of these sheets. I may also right click on it and I may change the color of these sheets. Right, click on 3 and I may change the color to orange, let's say, and sheet 2, right click, change color to, let's say, black. I may also right click and rename it. Just be very careful that when you do rename it, it doesn't have a formula built into the entire workbook. If you do, then you will mess up the formulas because the programmer reads from the name of a particular sheet, and if you change the name of the sheet, then the formula is broken as well. Then if I really wanted to, I could also hide any of these sheets. So I'll click on sheet 3, right click and hide. And now I don't see sheet 2 any longer. If I again right click, I can unhide. And there you go. Which one do I want to unhide? Sheet 3. There you go. So we're going to take sheet 1 back to where it was and keep that particular order. Now, if we have created a number of sheets here and it's fairly full, let's say we have very long names, we may run out of space at the bottom here. And the way to increase or decrease the space here is just by left clicking in and holding it in, and then you can change the size here. The way to zoom in and out is to the far right bottom. You can click on the plus or click on the minus, and you will see that you will change the size of the text by simply zooming in or zooming out. The other thing that we could do with respect to the size of the document or the size of the reading that we need to do is we may highlight something and then go to the Home tab and change the size of it there to, let's say, 16. And we may change the font of something, and it may be in a different font altogether, let's say Arial Black, right? And you can see that all of these now look different. So if I reduce the size of that page again, then I can see that these have now adopted a new font or a typesetting and also a new size. If I click on it, I can see the size is 16 and it's in Arial Black. If I click on these, that's not Arial Black and it's not 16. How do I get it back again? I can either do the undo button, right, which will undo the tasks which I had done before, right? Or alternatively, I could use the paintbrush. Now what the paintbrush does is it simply allows you to copy and paste a format, right? So if I click on this format, meaning this typesetting and size, click on the paintbrush and color in all the areas that I want to have adopted with the same typesetting and size. There you go. All right, did you see that? So I used the paintbrush. Now, what goes into a cell? A lot of things go into a cell. We can type, as we've seen here. We've just basically typed the words, and you can see they appear there. Please note that it's that cell in particular that has all of those words in. Although it overlaps with other cells, it is only this C2 that has that particular text in it. The moment I type in anything, um, in the next cell, no longer will all of those words appear because this cell blocks it from appearing. But if I delete the information in that cell, then it will reappear. All of that information will show up in that cell. Now I can format that cell by underlining it, doing italics, or I can just leave it as it is. Also, a cell can take numbers, any number, basically, and huge numbers for that matter. I can also add a date. And in the Australian context, this is how we write the dates in Australia. In the US context, the month is given first, and we can change that, the format of how we write a date. You do that simply by clicking at the top there, going to date, long date or short date, and there you go. You got Saturday, 15 March. We can also add currency to a number. Let's say 125, and we want to say $125. There you go. You can see that there's two decimals, and we want to decrease the decimals, or we want to increase the decimals. Again, we can align the numbers that are, or the text that are in a particular cell. So for instance, let's say these numbers here, we want to center align them. Click on that and they are center aligned. Let's say these here, we want to right align them. Click there and we have them right aligned. Then if we wanted to add formulas, the formula is always preceded by an equals. All right, and from here we can basically add numbers. And so the formula for adding is sum, and in brackets add that number plus that number plus that number, and close the brackets and hit enter, and that'll give you the answer. That's the formula, and that's the answer. And so we can have very complex formulas. In addition, we can have references. Let's say we want this particular cell. We're going to color it and we're going to frame it. We want this cell to reflect whatever is in this cell, or let's say this cell here, right? So the way we do that, click on that cell, equals whatever is in this cell. C5, click on C5 and hit enter. Now this J20 will reflect whatever is in this cell. If we change what is in C5, let's say morning, just the word morning, and hit enter, now at the bottom here, J19 will also change. So whatever is in this cell will feature in that cell. We can undo all of that again by just clicking undo. Now you can also see that the wording in this particular column is too great in terms of the width of this column. So we may create something, we may increase the width of this particular column by simply creating those arrows there, left click in and moving them like so. We can also increase the height of a row, clicking on a row, right click and row height. We can add a new value in there, let's say 25. 25 and hit enter. And now the height of that cell is different. We can also, as we've said before, we can align this particular cell both in terms of top, middle or bottom, as well as left, center and right. So let's say we've got the wording at the bottom. We now want to align it like that, right? And left align it. That's what it's going to look like, or right align it. That's what it's going to look like. We wanted to do a frame, then we can frame either a couple of cells together, or we could frame just one cell at a time. We've covered zoom in and out. Now we want to do the next one. So we're going to go to sheet 3, and I'm going to create 1 and 2 and 3, and I don't want to be going all the way down here and typing in all of that detail. So all I do is I highlight all 3 of them. Find a little cross at the bottom right corner of all 3, click in with my mouse, left click, and drag it down. And what you will find is that Excel will pick up the trend and it will fill in the rest. Right? Now, if I only highlight one cell and I drag it across, let's say that way to the right, it will only give me 1 for each of those cells. Or alternatively, if I highlight the entire section, entire column, and I find the little cross, left click in and bring it across to the right, it will do that for me. This is a way to save time with respect to copying numbers across a page. The way to do print setup would be, in this instance, I have already print preview. So I'm going to click on print preview and it opens up this particular page. Now it may feature everything I want to print, and that's okay, or it may not feature everything I want to print. But I can add a number of things, additional information to this particular page. For instance, if I click on page setup, I can add, for instance, a header and a footer by simply clicking things such as this. And there are some options for me here, and I may add, let's say, a confidential, or whatever the case might be, and okay that. Once I do that, these headers and footers have arrived at the top. I can also change the format or the presentation of the sheet by going from portrait to landscape. Now I have that sheet, right? If I go back, I don't see what I will be printing unless I go to View. And from View, I can click on Page Break Preview. And this one will show me how many pages will print. You can see page 1 is there, page 2 is there. If I drag this across by clicking on that little arrow there and dragging it across to this point, now there's only going to be 1 page that's going to get printed. If I go back to normal, then that shows me the normal view once more. And that concludes basically the details of Microsoft Word. The most important thing I would like you to learn is the help function, right? If you go to the help function, learn to do the help function, you can learn everything there. You do need to be online. The other very handy one to learn to do is highlighting an area and copying it across by having your cross on it like so.